Howdy! My name is Korok Ray, and this is our talk show, Innovation Matters, sponsored by the Mays Innovation Research Center. Just to remind you, the Mays Innovation Research Center is an academic research center at the Mays Business School at Texas A&M, and we sponsor a lot of research, and we study innovation and to understand how it works and how to make it more common and to make our lives better. I am here today with Evan Loomis. Evan, thank you for coming back to College Station.
Happy to be here.
And we're going to talk a lot about Evan's life, his time at the Mays Business School, and his career afterwards. Evan is currently the co-founder of Icon, which is a construction technology company in Austin, Texas, which just raised a ton of money and is growing like crazy and is really trying to achieve many things in many interesting areas. One thing I want to tell the viewers is that I'd recommend you also watch the first episode we recorded with Jason Ballard, your co-founder,
Yep.
who was sitting in your chair about 6 to 8 months ago, because this conversation will complement what we covered with Jason. And so we're not going to try to repeat everything, but we'll just get everyone up to speed, and hopefully you can watch both of the interviews and learn about really this breakthrough technology in construction.
He's also really entertaining, and he I don't know if he wore a cowboy hat, but if he did, then
He did.
it feels like the ultimate Aggie.
Yeah, exactly.
I kind of look like a banker from Dallas today.
So Evan, first let's back up. Tell us a little bit your life story, where you grew up, how you got to A&M, what you majored in, and so on.
Yeah. So I grew up in Austin, Texas, and both my parents went to TU around here, and all of my bad decisions were in high school, and so I just had to get out of Austin, Texas, and Texas A&M was the school that I really wanted to go to that was outside of the Austin city limits, which I live back there now, so I've paid penance since then. But yeah, so went to A&M. Actually, didn't really grow up with many friends that were Aggies, and really fell in love with the school, and so it was super incredible, but pretty normal, like growing up, high school experience. Had started a couple of businesses when I was young. One of the things that my dad encouraged me to do when I was 8 years old was to start my first business. It was a lawn mowing company, and so I've kind of been an entrepreneur ever since I was 8, basically, and then started a bunch of other little companies in high school. When I landed at A&M, I thought I wanted to be a doctor, but I would have been the worst doctor in the entire world. I don't know why. When you get to college, you're like, I'm going to be a doctor.
Right.
But through a fortunate set of events, ended up in Mays Business School with a degree in finance, and just had an absolute blast. I think, and will continue to think, A&M is just such an incredible university.
Right.
Not just for the academics, but like the types of people that it creates.
Yeah.
I think is like very, very special.
Yeah. And did you meet Jason back at A&M?
Yeah. So I was in a kind of alternative fraternity called Aggie Men's Club here at A&M, and did a bunch of student leadership organizations. Did Fish Aids, COSGA, was involved in the Memorial Student Center. Like anything that had like an application process, I probably applied for it when I was here. And when I got into Aggie Men's Club, there was a gentleman that applied to be in the fraternity named Jason Ballard. He was on the track team at A&M, and from the first time I met him, I was like, we're gonna be buddies, and we're two totally different animals. He's like very cerebral, super smart, incredible athlete, prince of a man, and I'm like the opposite of those things, which is like dumb, lazy, and I'm just kidding. But we just kind of became really fast friends, and I think out of that friendship grew a seriousness about our superpowers and what types of work we wanted to do in the world. And so we started our first company together called Treehouse. Right a few years after we graduated from A&M.
Okay. Now before I get there, when you were in finance at Mays, did you think that you were going to end up in technology? Was that something you thought you were aware of? Were you curious about it? What was your thinking back then?
It wasn't very good thinking, I would say. I wanted to be an investment banker, not because I was particularly gifted at finance, but because I heard it was a hard job to get. So I was like, oh, that sounds competitive. That sounds good. And so let me go get a job as an investment banker. And I was just the worst at it.
Yeah.
I mean, it was a total joke for me. And so I worked at J.P. Morgan Chase.
In New York, I guess.
Yeah, and then went to Citigroup for full-time offer in Chase, doing mergers and acquisitions. And when I say it was a joke, it's just it wasn't that profession is serious, and they do good work, but it wasn't a match with my skills.
Right.
It's not what I wanted to do. Right. I was like, the signals that I got as an 8-year-old to go start businesses and be an entrepreneur, I should have listened to that. But I tried to convince myself that I wanted to do high finance. All of that being said, it is such a great way to get your start in business,
right?
Because you just kicked in the face really fast.
In
investment banking, you work 120 hours a week. You actually learn kind of what the drivers are within a company.
Right.
You learn how to do financial modeling, and I think for my case, one of the best gifts that came out of it was learning how to sell. So you build these pitch decks,
right?
And you try to convince company A to buy company B, and you tell these stories in kind of presentation form and PowerPoints and keynotes. Yeah. And that's a universal skill set. And so I kind of took that away and really ended up loving my time as a banker, but couldn't wait to get out.
Okay. Now what happened after banking? Did you go straight to Treehouse?
Yeah, I was, I didn't go straight to Treehouse.
Okay.
So I fell in love with my wife at A&M. She she did a bunch of things here at A&M, was in Maggie's and some other organizations like that. But I was a couple years ahead of her. And so I spent 2 years in New York City doing banking. And then we got married and we moved to Washington, D.C. together. So she got into med school at George Washington University, which was great. And when I landed there, I knew that I didn't want to do big finance,
right?
But I really loved business. And so I started an angel investment group at that time. It was called Wedgwood Circle. And we are angel investing. If for folks that aren't familiar with that word, it just means high net worth investors. So wealthy individuals making, smaller size investments into early stage companies, anywhere from $25,000 to $250,000.
In the DC market or all over?
Yeah, kind of all over the United States.
Oh, great.
So we were really focused on media and entertainment. And so we had a group of about 75 high net worth individuals. Yeah. And we would find deals, bring them deals. They would invest in those companies, and hopefully, over the course of time, they would make a good return. Okay. And so I went from banking to early stage investing at an angel group, and then it was just a matter of time before I kind of got bit by the entrepreneur bug again. Right. And so the thing that Jason had kind of brought to me is hey man, I'm a green builder. Yeah. Green builder, whatever that was at the time, here in Boulder, and I think this market's going to be huge to provide more eco-friendly, sustainable solar panels, healthy building materials for people's homes. Right. And so almost imagine a Whole Foods version of Home Depot. Right. Or if Patagonia employees invaded Home Depot, what kind of business would you get? Right. And so we started that company shortly after my time at Wedgwood Circle, and had a really good run. It failed. That's kind of the short and abbreviated story there, but learned a ton. Yeah. We had a good 8-year run, raised some VC money to get it started. And the one thing that we didn't anticipate when we started Treehouse was Amazon. Right. My God, we were just certainly Amazon's not going to be selling paint. Certainly Amazon's not going to be selling solar panels and kitchens and all this kind of stuff. They're too big and they're too personal. Certainly we were wrong. And so Amazon kind of ate our lunch. There are a few other things that happened in the business that just made it less attractive over time. Did you move to Colorado with Jason for this, or where was Treehouse? So I lived in DC. He lived in Colorado. Okay. And we both converged in Austin, Texas to start the business. So my wife had finished medical school by then. Right. She was doing her medical residency at Dell. We're both Texans. We kind of wanted an excuse to get back, and so we moved back for that reason. Okay, perfect. Yep. Great. Now, so 8 years at Treehouse, and now tell me, let's dive into the genesis of Icon. How did that idea emerge? Yeah, a bunch of different data points on that, and there most good ideas start off kind of like a pebble in your shoe.
Yeah.
You're not sure what it is, but something feels off in the world.
Yeah.
And you're like, you're kind of like, I wonder what that is. And so the things that kind of began to feel off in my world and in my co-founder's world, Jason, was people were moving to Austin, they couldn't afford a home.
Yeah, right.
That felt off.
Yeah.
Another like scary statistic that we stumbled across when we were starting to kind of like get back after Treehouse was a statistic in the Atlantic Monthly that said 48% of Americans, if they're in a pinch, could not come up with $400 cash.
Yeah, yeah.
And so what that said to me was like, we're fragile.
Right.
Like we're very financially fragile as a population.
Sure.
In the most powerful country in the world.
Yeah.
If that's true, that's scary. And so financial fragility equals like housing fragility, and you look at housing prices rising and all this kind of stuff. And when you zoom out and look at the world, and you just Google how many people don't have a home,
right?
The number is the kind of number that makes you cry.
Yeah.
'Cause you just don't even want to think about it.
Yeah.
And that number happens to be about 1.2 billion of our brothers and sisters don't have adequate shelter. You're like, what's going on here?
Yeah.
And so those were like those were the clues on our journey that something was like really messed up within housing, and then we started kind of like looking for a solution.
I see. So the problem came first, rather than you didn't build a robot first.
Just that's right. Well, I mean, problems always have to come first.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you're going to create a solution that looks for a problem.
Right.
And so I think the world's best ideas come from like actual crises, actual problems, not made up problems, not fake problems. Right. There's laundry delivery with a cookie is not a problem.
Right.
That's an opportunity that a lot of entrepreneurs have capitalized on.
Yeah.
And I'm not dogging laundry delivery with a cookie, but that's just like an opportunity, and a scrappy entrepreneur may figure out a way to capitalize on, picking up her laundry, redelivering it, cleaning it, all that kind of stuff. But it's actually not a problem. And so all the great ideas start with like massive problems, massive market inefficiencies, and human suffering. Yeah. So if you start there, and that's kind of what we were paying attention to, is like, wow, look at all of these people that are suffering, whether it's Texans that just can't afford a home, whether it's people along the Gulf Coast that are being displaced by hurricanes, that's a problem, or whether it's the 1.2 billion number that I shared, that's a big problem. So we looked into like, what are the innovations that have led to incredible human flourishing since really a long time ago. It doesn't take rocket science, but you look at the movement from horses and buggies to transportation.
Sure.
In the cases of the Wright brothers, they went from bicycles to flying, which is kind of a big jump. They were crazy smart and talented, obviously, from paper to software.
Right.
And from being subjected to the earth to being a spacefaring civilization. Like all those, that's all happened in the last 100 years. And it's magical. And when you diagnose that, you get advances in software, advances in robotics, and advances in advanced material. So like, and so we said, what if we applied software, robotics, and advanced material to the problem of housing? So we started there. And we landed on basically automation, 3D printing, and all of that. And that was kind of the moment where we started Icon, is when we kind of lined up those stars and said, hey, let's just apply what we know to be true to have changed every other industry to housing, to alleviate human suffering, and then see where that takes us. And it's been a really freaking wild ride for the last 4 years. Right.
Awesome. And tell me your role on the team, if you can, in the context of sort of both your education and then what you were doing in investment banking and angel investing. Tell us about that.
So the role on any founding team changes a lot as you scale up and grow. So in the early days, there are just 3 co-founders, and you're like, what do you do? I'm a co-founder. Great. And the investors and other constituents don't really ask you to define your role necessarily. But as you scale up and grow, you need to start defining your role a little bit more carefully. And so one of our co-founders at Icon, named Alex, took technology. He's a technologist. He's amazing, really talented. Jason took leadership and managing our team as the CEO. And as the chairman and co-founder of the company, I took basically all of our external relationships.
Okay.
So customers, investors, strategic partners, all of that.
Okay.
So defense and space, and so that's kind of how we divide our responsibilities. Because what you don't want to happen on any team is like two people trying to play the drums at the same time, or two people trying to be the lead singer. It doesn't work that way.
Yeah.
And so fortunately for us, we each kind of had a role and a very clear set of responsibilities that we jumped into, and so that's what I'm doing. It's a lot of fun.
Okay, that's great. So mix, don't match.
Yeah, that's right. And it's just, and also too, it's being honest about, I mentioned the word superpowers already a couple of times, but being honest about what your actual superpowers are.
Right.
Everybody's got them. Most of the time people don't know what they are.
Right.
Or they tell themselves a story that they've got a superpower that they don't really have. And so I think it's especially incumbent on undergraduates and people even in graduate school to like, hey, be honest about like, who are you made to be?
Right.
What do you actually care about?
Right.
What do you give a damn about?
Right.
And how can you use your gifts to solve an important problem in the world?
Yeah.
And so we were really, really lucky to have very little friction in our kind of relationships. And then you discover that your superpower that got you here is not going to get you there.
Yeah.
And you got to build a team.
Yeah.
And so we've been really fortunate to build. We've got a team of over 300 people now.
Great.
And they're just incredible. And I feel so honored to be a part of it.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So here at Texas A&M, we're in the business of higher education, which really is the business of people and the young generation. Tell me how you. I want to kind of drill down on your desire to focus on such a big, massive problem, and how did you have the confidence that you, Jason and Alex, would be able to at least make a dent in it? Where did that come from? Was that part of your education at Mays? Was it afterwards? Was it Aggie Men's Club? Was it maybe your youth?
Yeah, I've never thought about confidence in that regard. Certainly, you need some grit and perseverance to like suffer through the early stages. Because if we were to rewind the clock 5 years ago, and I would have told you, I'm starting a 3D printing company that's going to 3D print entire houses out of concrete, you'd have been like, dude. What's wrong with you? I wouldn't have been a speaker here. You know, like that guy's a little crazy. We should go produce more Aggies that are doing interesting things in the world. But and so I think the confidence comes from probably a few things. One, like when you achieve a little bit of success, whether it's like when I was 8 years old and I knew that I could like start a business and make my next door neighbor, Miss Shoemaker, happy by mowing in straight lines, which is very hard for an 8-year-old. Like confidence begets more opportunities, and those more opportunities beget opportunities to increase your confidence levels. And really just your conviction, your like a radical self-belief that like I can do this. Like I got it. I got what it takes to do great things in the world. And so that tends to start at a pretty early age, and wherever it starts, it kind of grows over time. I think if you just have it right out of the gates without earning it and like doing hard things, you probably have some sociopathic or narcissistic tendencies, you know, that need to be addressed otherwise. But so that I think that's where it started. I just had really great parents and really good friends that encouraged entrepreneurial endeavors. And when you succeed, you kind of take the next step and you dream bigger. And so also I think failure is really good. Because when you in the case of Treehouse, we failed bad. It's like, that hurts. It really sucks to lose investors' money. It hurts to like have failed within oh, you're the guy that started that company. Man, I'm sorry they failed. And you're like, yeah, that was, you know, you feel that. But then after you fail and you experience what that's actually like, it's not really failure. It's freedom in a sense of like, okay, that wasn't that bad. If you tell the truth and you work your ass off, there's a lot of freedom in America to like try hard and fail. And it actually, more people admire you for trying and failing than you might think. And so a lot of times people just play it safe because they don't want to screw it up. But what makes our country so incredible is like our tolerance as a society for failure.
Right.
I would say like
Right.
we still have this mentality of go west.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
It's like, just try, like do something big. And it is no surprise to me that like even like the Elon Musk and the Jeff Bezoses are doing big things in this country because of that. So yeah, it's a mix of like confidence that has grown over time and failure, and you discover that failure is just not, it doesn't have power over you anymore. And
Right.
you're free to kind of do what you want. And so that's not to say doing big things like starting a venture-backed company that's raised hundreds of millions of dollars isn't scary and we don't have our moments. It is to say that like when you've been there and done that and you realize that like you can get back on the horse, it's going to be okay. So
now Icon is as you said 300 employees. You're valued at least north of $2 billion now.
It's I think it's rumored to be around $2 billion, but I can't confirm nor deny
Right.
what the value is.
Right. The construction industry historically has been notoriously manual, right? I mean, it's just even today it surprises me that so much of the sticks and bricks houses are still largely just done completely by hand. Tell us, I guess, your vision for housing in the future as it relates to Icon.
Well, it's just that like we have not innovated on housing for 1,000 years.
Yeah.
And that is not hyperbole. If we were to go back in time to the Middle Ages and look at a house, what we would discover is sticks and bricks and rudimentary nails and maybe some mortar and mud. And we're kind of doing it the same way today. And so housing has got to move into the modern world. It just has to. It's not doing what we hoped it would do. We've had a couple of innovations along the way. We learned how to make lumber in the 1800s really quickly, and the Industrial Revolution. In the 1950s, we figured out how to shoot nails fast with nail guns during the Power Revolution.
Right.
So the Industrial Revolution gave us lumber. The Power Revolution gave us fast nails. And the electronics revolution gave us a Nest thermostat.
Right.
That's actually not housing innovation. That's just like a cool iPhone on your wall.
Yeah.
And so that's a problem.
Right.
And it's a problem that causes human suffering. And so that when we really wanted to like move it forward, we landed on robotics and 3D printing. And if you're on the podcast, I'll have to explain this. But if you're on video right now, this is our Vulcan printer. This is the advanced piece of robotic equipment that we created that can 3D print an entire house just in a matter of days, up to about 3,000 square feet. And so this covers 95% of single-story homes in America.
Right.
It's amazing.
Right.
And the entire robot, it's got tracks on each side that it kind of rolls, forward and back on. It has 2 towers and then a cross beam that allow it to go up and down, left and right, forward and back. And that gives you the ability to print within 3-dimensional space. We're really proud of this. There's another piece of equipment that is kind of paired with this called the magma system. Mm-hmm. And the magma system mixes and pumps concrete real time throughout the day. Concrete's kind of finicky, and we're getting concrete to come out of a hose like a toothpaste.
Right.
It's really fun. So the kind of joke on our team is anytime people are actually watching this happen, they want to get like a popcorn and beer because it's actually really entertaining.
I bet.
It's fun to watch. So
I bet. Now, is your on the business side? Are you planning on becoming a national home builder, or just supplying the walls to existing home builders? What?
Yeah, it's right now our business model is robotics as a service, and so what tends to happen is a big real estate developer or a large builder comes to us like Lennar, and they say, hey, we're building a community of 100 homes, and we really want to use Icon's technology. Can we partner with you? And so what we do is we say, great, we can, let's work on the design of the houses. Let's find a beautiful design that we think is really cool. And then we'll print those walls. And so we do design print contracts, which is robotics as a service.
Right.
Where we're likely going to head to in the future is a future where we get this technology into other people's hands.
Yeah.
So right now we're controlling the technology because it's so new and it's moving and metamorphosizing so fast. But the thing that we can't wait to do is call up Europe, call up Central and South America, call up India and other countries and saying, hey, we've got an advanced piece of equipment that can really solve your housing needs. Let's go. And so I don't know when that date's going to be. But our end game is likely going to be more of a construction technologies company, where our primary product are these pieces of software and robotic tools that allow people to do this on their own.
Wow. Okay. So I mean, construction is it's very local, and so you would work with builders across the world and sell them either the machine or
yeah,
sell them
just like any car company. I mean, Ford sells cars, Tesla sells cars all over the world. You don't need to have a car that's done by Tesla that needs to fly when you're in another country. Like the gravity still holds, and so we would create the technology and export it or license it or something like that.
This is beautiful. Tell us, what are we looking at?
Yeah, so one of the cool things that we just unveiled this past week at South by Southwest was an exploration series of homes, a home particularly called House Zero. And what we did, we hired a really great architectural firm called Lake Flato. They do some just beautiful, iconic work in Texas. And we said, hey, let's dial it up to 11. And let's see what would happen if you designed a home that could only be built by a robot. So every single surface in the house is curved. If you're looking at the front of the house, it looks like cypress trees. These we call them tree walls. They have incredible structural integrity. They're beautiful. And this past week, we got about 1 billion kind of impressions on this house. So we're super proud of it. And the people that were walking into the house and out of the house were like, how fast can I get one? So part of our job as futurists and as entrepreneurs and technologists is to show the world what can be and what could be, if and only if there's this like crazy cool technology. And so part of the point of this home was like setting up new architectural paradigms for people to kind of imagine. Not every wall has to have a straight line. Not every corner has to be a right angle. You can have curves and slopes and all that kind of stuff. And you can have a home that feels actually more human as opposed to like sterile and less human.
Wow. Yeah, this is gorgeous. So it sounds like you're trying to attack both ends of the market, both the high end. This looks like a pretty nice high end home, but also in order to hit the low income housing. Tell us about that strategy and how you're doing both of them.
Well, our strategy is that everybody wins. And I'll explain what I mean by that. What we don't want to do is build a business on the backs of like countries that are struggling to get on their feet. And so if you build a business that is catered towards the very poor, it's hard to make it work long. It's hard to have a very sustainable business there. But that's the heartbeat of our company. We want to build a company that addresses the actual crisis in the world. And so as we've looked at it, we're definitely going to be doing projects in the developing world. We're definitely going to be doing social housing here in the United States. And we're definitely going to attack the middle market, and then we're going to go up market. And when I say everybody wins, when you think about a paradigm shift, like the entire paradigm of construction is going to get faster. It's going to get cheaper. It's going to get better. It's going to get more resilient. It's going to have less waste. It's going to be more sustainable. It's going to blow people's minds in like a really positive way. Like one person doesn't have to win and the other one has to lose, so to speak. And so we want to make the higher end, the middle market, the social, the government housing for Indian reservations here in America, housing for military bases, housing for off-planet construction systems. I mean, all of it is to get faster and cheaper and better. And for undergrads and folks at A&M right now, they're going to get hit with this when they graduate, which is like, wow, housing is real expensive. And if you try to build a house, it can take like 9 to 12 months, and it's very expensive. It's like, why is that? This is like, should not take that long, and it should not be this expensive. So that's kind of how we think about it.
Okay. Now, let me push you on this question. So U.S. housing itself is a big problem. Global housing, an even bigger problem. If you're going after that problem, why bother with anything off the planet? Why spend any time on say lunar construction or construction on Mars?
Yeah, I always get nervous when a PhD tells me they're going to push me on something. I'm like, oh no, did I get a fact wrong? Great, right. I can answer this one. Yeah, we get that a lot, and I think that kind of sentiment has been hard for a lot of organizations that are doing work that's like really boundary pushing.
Yeah,
and it's like, well, but what about the poor?
Yeah.
What about the people that are here now?
Yeah.
And I think in the case of our work at Icon, so Icon does have contracts with NASA to build the moon base, and we're also working with Johnson Space Center to get ready for Mars.
Wow.
Super exciting work.
Yeah.
And America as a country is going to go back to the moon.
Right.
And this time we're not just going to ride around in dune buggies and hop around, which actually looks really cool when I watch the videos of the astronauts.
Yeah.
And then fly home, but we're going to stay.
Yeah.
And we're going to have infrastructure on the moon. And the cool thing about our work, there is like almost a 1-for-1 analog on the advances that we make in outer space. Building habitats on the moon are going to have a direct impact on how well we can shelter ourselves on Earth.
Yeah.
Because that's the technological deep end of the pool.
Right.
Building on the moon with intense radiation, moonquakes.
Right.
It's an actual thing.
Yeah.
They're moonquakes, like earthquakes, but they're different. If you can imagine that. And meteors.
Yeah.
Like, there's no atmosphere, so stuff hits you.
Right.
And so you think about like the type of advanced civilization that figures out how to build on the moon is certainly going to figure out a way to build on Earth better, faster, cheaper. Right. And so a lot of our insights, and this is probably true for Tesla. So SpaceX got its start.
For sure.
Off to the races, really innovating in aerodynamics and advanced metals. And a lot of those are being translated into Tesla cars. Yeah. And I think the same thing is going to be true for us with our space work. It actually already is. And so that's not like just positioning.
Yeah.
That is fundamentally true.
Right.
And we can't wait to take those breakthroughs and apply them for people that like desperately need it here on Earth.
Okay. Excellent. So let me now kind of speak to especially the students who are watching this. I want you to kind of look back on your career and especially your time at A&M. And we want to, here at A&M, we want to obviously make not just we want to make students better and kind of I guess looking back on the choices you've made and how you made them. What advice can you give to our current students now, especially and address any hesitations or fears they may have or anxieties about following a path similar to yours?
Being an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think everybody should be an entrepreneur. Mm-hmm. And for the students that have the itch, you should just pay attention to that because you're wired in a certain way. And if you're wired to be a creator of whatever it is, start a coffee shop, start a business 3D printing houses. It doesn't matter what it is. You're probably just not going to be happy unless you're kind of doing what you're wired to do in general. And it's good for people to be honest about that. The first jobs that I took out of college were jobs that I was told were important. They're not the jobs for me. Yeah. And so I ended up sitting in a cubicle, wasting away as a result. Right. That's one. Two, I feel like a lot of times people are afraid of failure. And so if you don't know what your superpowers are, then just go explore. Yeah. It's like you actually learn a lot when you run into a brick wall. Yeah. Like, I didn't enjoy that. And so maybe I need to get out of graphic design and go into finance, or maybe to get out of finance and go into graphic design or whatever that may be, or marketing or whatever have you. So paying attention to, like, giving yourself permission to explore and being willing to look like an idiot. Yeah. Because who cares? Right. Like nobody's, we don't need to impress each other. And so, and then I would say 3, like having some really good friends around you. Like the legacy for me coming out of A&M was not great finance professors. I had some good ones. Yeah. Sally Joyner. Is she still here?
I don't know.
Okay, she was awesome.
Yeah.
And Peter Drysdale. I just had some awesome people in my life within the university, but like the legacy of A&M for me is like deep friendships.
Yeah.
And the kind of friends that aren't afraid to tell you their observations and kind of the truth about you.
Right.
Is really good medicine as you head out there into the world.
Right.
Because we need people in our corner that want to encourage us, that want to lift us up, that want to help us do like the most with our very precious and very short time on earth.
Yeah.
And so I feel like I had a lot of really good friends and that were actually forged and developed here at A&M.
Okay.
And so that has probably been this. And I would say Jason Bauer would probably say that too.
Yeah.
He's like, Jason, why are you who you are today? And he would probably say some version of after wife and then his like close friends.
Right. Right. One thing we've talked about before is and I'm sure this was true when you were here at A&M. It's still largely true today. Is that A&M, like many state institutions, is very successful in offering almost a set path to get into corporate America and large companies. But to do something a little more risky is harder. It's just you have to sort of figure it out on your own. Still, my center, the McFerrin Center, other opportunities are trying to provide more of those opportunities. And I know it's not going to be for everybody, right? But there are going to be some students, hopefully some of you watching, who could go either way, who could be just on the border between investment banking or going straight into technology. For those students, any other thoughts or practical tips?
Well, and this is something A&M. So the McFerrin Center,
a
professor like you, did not exist when I was a student here, and so a lot of times people, at least when I was here, I thought the only options were a bank, an investment bank, or one of the big four accounting firms. And I smirked earlier when you said state institution because I was like, it feels like a jail.
Right.
It feels like a jail.
Right,
who wants to do that? And I actually don't think that like if students are honest with themselves, they care about what they're told to think is cool.
Right.
Like the accounting firms, the banks, all that kind of stuff. It's just the university has been set up to produce people that are attractive to employers. And we've got an amazing set of employers, and we produce a lot of really attractive bankers and all that kind of stuff. Right. So I'm not knocking that, although I'm saying it, but we have to do a service to our university and identify people that have the entrepreneurial spirit a little sooner, and at least show that this is another way.
Right.
And when I was here, it was not a way.
Right.
You kind of follow the cattle out the chute, and you got a job at a bank, and you're like, what the heck is happening to me right now? I don't like this. And so how would I encourage people? I mean, if you'll never if you're wired for entrepreneurship, you'll never regret like taking the blue pill, to use a Matrix analogy, and starting a business and kind of detaching yourself from the system. In a sense, I think it can actually be really harmful, especially in a small college town. There's a lot of homogeneity of like thought and ideas. Right. To just kind of follow that. And I don't think it's very interesting. I don't think the next breakthrough health innovation is going to be done by somebody that like followed all the rules. Right. Like break the rules. Don't do what everybody else is doing. If you want to do consulting, like why? Right. Why do you want to do that? Right. It's silly. Right. You're like, stop saying that. But when you back up, it's like silly. It's someone else's dream. You're building someone else. Go, like find your dream and go build that. Right. And go make the world a better place. Like these chairs, your jacket, that hat, your watch, those shoes, this advanced, TV camera system that's recording us right now, this microphone. An entrepreneur like thought of it. Right. They started it. They raised some money and they started it. Like everything around us, like the world is entrepreneurial. That's right. When you think about it that way. And so like when you kind of see the world through that lens, like all of this has been created by like bright and imaginative minds that wanted to make the world better, that wanted to do something that was like off the beaten path. Like we walk around just in debt to their service in a sense, but we don't realize it.
Yeah,
like
right.
that TV was invented by somebody,
Yeah,
you know,
exactly right.
and it's that way of living, because our lives are so short, I think is just more fun and colorful.
Right.
And so if cubicles and Microsoft Excel get you excited, then there's a way for you. And if that sounds terrible, then you should go be an entrepreneur or do something else.
Yeah.
So
last thing I want to ask you, Evan, is you and Jason, both Aggies, tell us what the Aggie core values, what they have meant to you and how they impact your life, either within Icon or outside.
Yeah, which is funny because I originally wanted to be a spy, and I was the personal assistant to President Bush when I was here at A&M, and he was like, "I think you got what it takes to go work for the CIA," and I was like, "All right." And it's the Aggie's code of honor is like, Aggies do not lie, cheat or steal, nor tolerate those who do.
Yeah.
It's like, well, my job might be lying and stealing. I don't know how this is gonna work. And so I got a little chuckle out of that.
Yeah.
I never did intelligence. I really wanted to go start companies, but what those values mean to me, I think values don't mean something unless they're embodied. And I'll go back to my group of friends. Like I've got a group of friends that embodies the not only the A&M values, but like just the virtues of love and kindness and curiosity and justice. And so when you have a community that embodies the values, they actually mean something. And I think A&M does that, like as a community and as a university. Like none of it would mean anything if it was just words, but like the fact that A&M's culture is so palpable when you're here, it left me as a graduate like feeling like I understood what the values actually meant because it made an impression on my heart. So
okay, great.
That makes sense.
Great. Yeah, it does. So Evan, I want to thank you for your taking the time today to speak to us and to the students. I know Evan he's a very successful entrepreneur and an investor. Just know that this kind of success is something that is within your reach. And I hope all, if not maybe some, if not all of you will strive for that.
Go get it.
Okay. Thank you. And
See ya.
All right. Thanks, Evan.
Absolutely.